Hey, hey, you hear me? Hey, look at me. Look at me. Hello, I'm DDF, and this.
Hello, I'm EMD.
We're here to help you understand the difference between the two. I'm DDF, which is due diligence fee, as part of an offer to contract and purchase a home or real property. And while it's not something that is required by law, typically sellers are going to require some kind of due diligence. Typically it's based off of sale price. So if you're looking at a $100,000 property, probably not going to have a $20,000 due diligence. If you're looking at a $1 million property, your due diligence is probably going to be higher. So if you're in this area and you're hopefully working with me, I will guide you with that. I've got a process I use as a baseline, and then we work off of that. And if you're working somewhere else, your realtor should advise you on how much to put down, how much not to. So important thing to know about due diligence. It is part of your offer on a property. And with that, typically, you're not going to get it back. And when I say that, I mean in the literal sense of when you go under contract, you're going to write that DDF check to the seller. And they're going to get it, they're going to cash it, and it's theirs. There's only a couple things that they can do that would cause them to have to give that money back to you. And typically, you're not going to see those because that's normally when you're heading towards going to court over a house, and it just gets nasty. So we all try to not go there. So plan when you give that you're not getting it back. Now you will see it again, get credited back to you at closing or applied to the total amount. You actually will see that on the first page of the offer to purchase and contract. There's a subtotal from the offer price, the due diligence amount, earnest money amount, additional earnest money. There's some other things in there you can put in. And at the bottom, it'll give you a total you're actually going to owe at closing. So it's not like you pay it and it just disappears. You do get it credited. So let's just say you had a $100,000 house and you put $1,000 due diligence fee down. So when you get ready to close, you're going to have $99,000 that you owe at closing because you've already paid $1,000. The seller just got that ahead of time. A good way to look at due diligence is this a consideration or compensation for the seller taking their house off the market. Like I said, it is not a requirement by law. You don't have to do due diligence, and sellers don't have to require it. But it is a pretty normal practice, and it's something that I would recommend clients on both sides to be willing to be reasonable with it and have a perspective of where the price point is of the house. Kind of fluctuates what you're doing, and then obviously if you're in a multiple offer situation, it can be a good tactic to go higher on that, but it is the most risky kind of opportunity to lose that money, because if you walk away from the deal, say you give them $2,500 in due diligence, and the first week of your due diligence time period, say it's 2 weeks, and in your first week you have a home inspection, you have a termite inspection, and a septic tank inspection. And your septic tank inspection comes back that the whole system has to be redone, comes back that there's active termites, and the home inspection shows that the roof's leaking in 5 different places and there's significant rot in the attic. It probably changed your desire to buy the house. Well, sometimes you can work all those things out, and the seller could have not been aware of any of them and be willing to fix them all. Sometimes they're not. So let's just say you can't come to a place where you both can meet and agree on how to move forward. So you decide to leave the contract. You're not going to get your due diligence back. You're going to forfeit your $2,500. The seller gets to keep it. Hopefully they'll put it towards those repairs, but it's really up to them what they do with it. I will tell you that when you share your home inspection report with the seller, even though you paid for it, one, it's not going to do you any good taking it with you if you leave the deal, because it's for the house that you're not buying. And it also, it's a stronger incentive for that seller to fix those things. And at bare minimum, if the listing agent receives that report, it now is in the category of material facts. So if it's a material fact, everyone's entitled to it. So that means moving forward, you'll help the next buyer. I know that's, kind of stinks, but it's not doing you any good. And you already paid for the report. So just to throw that out there. But that's a rundown of due diligence, kind of how it works, what it is and what it isn't. The significance of us sitting on opposite sides of the table is because so many people mix up the EMD and the DDF. So we wanted to show that while we're at the same table, we're in the same deal, we do have a separation of our roles and how we actually function. So I'm over here and, I'm used to incentivize the seller to take an offer and to give them some compensation for taking their house off the market during the due diligence time period. But I'm going to be on this side of the table. And the only way I'm going to get to go back to the other side of the table is if the seller does something really, really, really wrong. There's very few times that you're going to see the due diligence fee get handed back to a buyer. Just have that in mind. That's the biggest thing I have to push, because a lot of states do it different. In North Carolina, that's how due diligence works. So now I'm going to turn it over to the lovely EMD, and she will give you a rundown of how that operates and works.
Hi, EMD, or Earnest Money Deposit. I'm also known as Good Faith. As DDF stated earlier, we are at the same table, but we are on different sides. I am offered as good faith money, but the due diligence time period covers my 6 until 5 p.m. on the last day of due diligence. Until that point, the buyer can walk away from the transaction and will be entitled to receive me back. I am most commonly held by the closing attorney until the day of closing. Then I will be applied to the contract price, making the amount due lower by X amount. So say the house you're buying is $100,000 and you put $5,000 down in earnest money. At closing, you would owe $95,000 to the contract price. It's important to remember that after the due diligence period ends, that if you, the buyer, walk away and leave the transaction, that the earnest money is entitled to go to the seller. So it's very important to make sure during your due diligence period that you get all of your inspections and your appraisal back in time so you can make a decision based off of fact.
I hope that this was helpful, talking about due diligence fee and earnest money deposit at a deeper depth and showing a physical of 2 different people talking about each one, so kind of help you understand. And remember that they're 2 separate things. They're both on the deal. They're both on the offer to purchase and contract. They both serve different roles, and they're, one is a fee and one is the deposit. So that's the biggest difference that you need to listen for with those words when you're doing a real property transaction and think about what offering or receiving an offer. So that way you understand what you're getting, when you're getting it, and the fact of, like the due diligence will be subtracted off at the end. If you're the seller and you get a $20,000 due diligence, well, that's great. But if you're selling a $100,000 piece of property, that means at closing you're getting $80,000 because you've already got 20. You're not going to get an extra 20. So there can be lots of confusion. But if you have any questions about those specific things, I would love the opportunity to talk with you about them. Even if you're not in my area and you're in the middle of a deal or trying to put an offer in and you're just having a hard time understanding it, I would be more than happy to talk with you about it and help you figure out what you're doing or what you're not doing. And that way you don't end up writing somebody a check that you're not going to get back. So DM me below, or you can get my number and call me or text me directly if you'd like. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Groovy. All right, so gotta wrap this video up. Talk about calling us. Call us.